How have you been and how's the family doing?
Awesome, mate. Really good, thank you. Really, really good. I'm uh, stopped playing it for a while ago now. So just busy with family life. Usual thing, mate. On a Friday and Saturday and Sunday, on taxi for the kids. We've got different sporting events. I've got three beautiful children, two boys and a little girl, and they're all sport mad, all crazy on sport, different sports. So my eldest son, he plays rugby, and he's a boxer. So he's got a fight
Oh,
tomorrow night. So he's been prepping for his fight. Uh, my next boy, my middle child, Jacob, he's a footballer. So he plays at Blackpool. Uh, so we're 3, 4 nights a week up there while he's training, and weekends he's playing. And my daughter Isabella, she's horse mad. So we recently got her a horse for her birthday. So I'm
mate,
down
you've
at
not aged either. How have you managed all that?
God knows, man. Must all be that horse manure. Going every morning, shoveling, you know what, and every afternoon
Yeah,
shoveling it again for her. And it's just great to watch them, mate, and see them flourish like that.
no, brilliant. Before we go on to you then, mate, as a parent, is the boxing side real difficult to watch?
It's nobody likes seeing the kid. You know, if you're a parent and you've got a kid that's playing football or playing rugby or boxing or going into any sort of like combat sport like that, physical sport where you've got people that can take a little bit of a liberty, you've got people that are a bit bigger and a bit tougher and all of that sort of in the mix. I think any parent would be lying saying that they didn't get a little bit of tingle in the tummy seeing it and
Yeah,
watching it. But you just got to trust your child, haven't you? You know, and he's got a great boxing coach, ex-pro world, competed for the world title, Mike. Fantastic coach. He puts the yards in, mate. Puts the yakka in. He trains really hard, and he does everything like that. Leaves no stone unturned. So it's very controlled environment what they do it in, and stuff like that. But yeah, you just got to trust your child, trust the process, and say a little prayer
that's
now and
exactly
again.
it. Yeah. Right, mate, so right back to the start. So where was home for a young Lee and who lived at home with you?
So I'm Wigan born and bred.
Right.
Lived there with my mum and dad and my sister. Grew up in a place called Orrell, which is not in Wigan. It's not too far from the border of St Helens. Really, you've got Orrell, Billings, then goes into St Helens, and then obviously further on. So that's been home for me. I've never really moved out of Wigan. I've moved to a couple of different areas when I met my wife Lisa, and then we've just sort of we call it our forever home in a place called Wrightington, which is on the outskirts of Wigan, which is you got Wrightington, Purbo, Maudsley, Chorley, and stuff like that. So that's where we are at the minute.
Right. And how was rugby introduced to you and where was your first club?
Yeah, so I was a footballer. To be fair, I'd never played rugby in my life until I went to high school. Uh, I played a little bit at school, but never real competitive. And we played. So my high school was at Abraham Guest High School, and we played against the high school called St John Fisher, which is in
Yeah,
Wigan,
the
which
St
is
Pat School.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that led on. If you wanted to play for Wigan, generally when I was a kid, you went to John Fisher High School. From John
Yeah.
Fisher, you went to St Pat's. From St Pat's, you went to Wigan, and that was sort of like the conveyor belt. And we played St John Fisher one night in a school game. I got asked if I'd play, and I said yeah. I must have done okay. I think
Yeah.
what it was, I didn't know anybody, so I didn't fear anybody. I didn't understand who was good, who was bad, or who not to run at, or who to stay away from. I didn't understand that because I'd never played, so I just did
Yeah.
what I did. And
And
obviously,
vice versa as well, innit?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
they
mate. And
wouldn't have been aware of your ability,
yeah,
would they really?
so I went on there and did what I did, and I must have done okay. And then it was Mick Nanning's dad. Used to be
Right.
centre at Widnes, Mick. His
Yeah.
dad came over to me and said, "Well done, mate." Like blah blah blah. Who'd you play for? And I was like, "I don't play." And he's like, "Do you fancy a game?" That's sort of how the conversation went. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem." So I could play my football on a Saturday and do my rugby on a Sunday. I was quite good at football, believe it or not. Even though I was a bit of a lump, I was centre back and I was quite nippy for my size and stuff like that. And I could pass a ball and switch play and all of that. And I loved it. And sort of like I was at Wigan Athletic for a little bit as a kid, like nothing in that, but just there, and Wigan Junior Latics and different things like that. And then I went to Orrell St James's to play my rugby. I had a conversation, and I think if I remember right, the first I got told off Mick's dad, he said, if you fancy playing and we can get you registered, your first game will be at Central Park against St Williams, which was Rosebridge, in Wigan, on like a curtain raiser before Wigan and Saints on a Good Friday. And I was like, yeah, no worries, yeah. It's like, turned up at Wigan, Central Park. It was rammed. It was the old Central Park then. Fabulous ground. And I played, and I remember like the hair sticking up on my neck and getting a bit of a tingle. I was like, wow, this is mega. And these people like Kelvin Skerritt running past, who was a monster, Andy Platt, Andy Farrell, people like that who were like absolute monsters. And I was like, wow, I love this. I like it. And then I had to make a decision at some point where I couldn't continue to do both, and I fell in love with rugby league.
Yeah. So how come you never nudged, mate? Because obviously you can play a bit of footy. Was you just overlooked because of your position, really? Do you think? Because it
In
doesn't matter
football,
anymore, does it? So like
no,
rugby, you didn't kick goals, did you?
no, I didn't, mate. No, but you don't get in front of a person like Mick Nanning if he's kicking goals, do you?
I
Mick,
suppose so.
bit of a
Yeah,
machine, and I kicked a little bit amateur, but
yeah,
Mick was in our team, so he's phenomenal, wasn't he? Thing
yeah,
is with Mick, if you scored a try, no matter where you scored it in the game or on the field, you almost guarantee there's another 2 points coming on the back of it. So it was phenomenal, Mick, and I think you just got to know your place sometimes, haven't you?
yeah. Excuse me, mate. So going back a little bit, football wise, mate, I I only ever played on the field like you probably did with your mates and that. But when you're in that environment that you were in, like, because even playing a little bit of junior Latics still really competitive, isn't it? Is it like clicky or was it just
Yeah,
like the rugby? It was all
unbelievable,
right.
mate. Unbelievable clicky, but
Oh,
I
was it?
think sometimes as a kid you're a bit oblivious to that. It's more your parents that pick up on that.
Yeah,
I just wanted to turn up and play football. I wasn't bothered who I played with as long as I played and things like that. But sort of like, yeah, you go to a team, and I've seen it now with my son Jacob. So he was down at Wigan Athletic for a while. He played 4 grassroots football matches, and then Wigan Athletic came and said we'd like him to come down for a trial. Could he come down? I was like, well, you need to ask him. And he
yeah,
was only 7, like at the time, and I'm a big believer that, like, obviously I'll help him and I'll guide him, but lots of decisions are down to him. If he didn't want to go, we didn't go, and he was like, yeah,
yeah,
I'll go down and I'll have a crack light. So we went down. Probably about 2. He had Liverpool and Man City sort of sniffing around him as well, and then a little bit later on, Blackpool came in for him as well. So he tasted a little bit of everything, if you like, and then how he ended up at Blackpool was it came to the point where they try and sign kids at 8 years old, which I think is absolutely
yeah.
crazy, but that's the game you play, isn't it? And you set sort
It
of
is.
caught
Yeah,
up in that, and they all sort of like was hinting at making him an offer, and he was like, "I don't know what to do, Dad. Obviously, Man City's Man City, isn't it? It's massive,
yeah,
Liverpool's Liverpool, and Wigan, we're a Wigan family and stuff, and then Blackpool." And I just said to him, "Mate, your happiness is your compass. Go where makes you happiest. Don't worry about it's just underage football. Whatever you play, whether you're at City or at Blackpool, it's just underage
yeah,
football." And he said, "Well, all my mates were at Blackpool, and that's what he chose because we went to Wigan. Probably took 6 weeks for any of the kids to talk to him when he went to Wigan. Probably took 6 weeks for any of the parents to speak to me at
it's
training
mad, that,
because
isn't it?
it's like he's that lad coming for my lad's position, and
Yeah,
there's yeah, it's
political, really.
yeah, it is, mate. It is, and you see it in all sports, so you're not going to get away from that. But again, I just think the thing that does sort of bugs me a little bit is that people try and influence the kid and influence things around the kid. So try and be mates with a coach or a scout or whatever. And for me, it just screams out that you don't trust your child. Just trust your kid. They're just kids. Just let them enjoy playing. What will be, will be. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's sort of my
yeah.
thoughts on it.
No, do you know what, mate? I agree. And you answered probably my next question, really, because I obviously weren't aware of like your kid's circumstances, but it's very much like getting offered something at 8 is real young, mate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
real, and it puts like a real seriousness on something they should be loving.
Well, so like this last few weeks, there's been sort of like when if I rewind 2 years, then it comes to a point when the kids are like 11, 10 or 11. The club's
Yeah,
offering them a 2 year deal,
yeah,
or they release the kid. So Jacob got offered a 2 year contract, if you like, and then they taught you during the academy process that when your child first enters the academy at this age, he is worth this much, and the year after is worth this much to us. So if we wanted to sell him, or there'd be a deal brokered and things like that, and that sort of increases year on year as you're going through the system. So we're coming towards the end of the 2 year deal, and a couple of his friends have been released from the team.
right.
Luckily enough, Jacob, he had his review 3 weeks ago, and they praised him, and he's doing really
Yeah,
good. But the pressure leading into that, you could see it taking a toll on all the kids, and
yeah,
it's just the game that they're playing, I suppose, and the system that they're in, and try and make it as not serious as possible. But ultimately, there's a serious element. It's a business, and clubs have got to function that way, haven't they? I suppose. But I think it's
exactly.
important as
Even
a
at that
parent that you
age.
stay grounded.
Yeah,
So we'll get in the car training, on a training night, and I'll say to him, "Did you enjoy that, mate?" And he'll say, "Yeah," or "No." He always says, "Yeah," but I said, "Did you enjoy that?" He'll say, "Yeah." I said, "Do you want to come again on Wednesday?" And he'll say, "Yeah." I said, "Right, well, we'll come back Wednesday." The minute he says, "I don't want to do this anymore, Dad," then we don't go back. Whether
it's
we've
not.
got a contract or not, it's
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that, mate. Because fundamentally, his happiness is, like you said, is key in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%, mate.
I did see. I know I've slightly gone off you a minute, mate. Sorry, but I seen like I don't know if you've seen it with any of the little ones, but well, they're not little, but like the Crystal Palace thing
Yeah,
on Channel 4. Did you see that?
yeah,
Like it's cutthroat, and I was
yeah,
like,
it is.
Jesus, like town team for me, and probably maybe for you at football 11 was like intense enough, and you weren't guaranteed nothing. It was just like you're playing with your mates, but it still felt proper, didn't it?
It
Where
did,
when they're
mate. It did.
talking stuff,
Yeah,
it's scary.
there's so much money involved in football now, and you've got
Uh,
like at Jacob's age now. So Jacob's 13, like you've got agents sniffing around.
it's mad,
They're
that, innit?
looking. No one's spoken to Jake. I'm not saying that, but at this age, I know there's agents knocking around like they're sniffing around kids because they want that next Wayne Rooney on the books or whatever that is. And they're not kids anymore. They're not kids that are running around a football field. They're cash cows for certain people, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's the hard thing to take sometimes. You've got as a parent, I think you just got to stay grounded and you just roll with the punches. Take each week as it comes, and
yeah,
don't fill the head full of you're going to be the next day. So stay grounded, concentrate on your education, enjoy your downtime with your mates. You're still a child. You're going to make mistakes, but we fail forward.
yeah. And do you think your exposure to the levels you reach, mate, helped do that for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. You know, being involved in sport. So I'm very good friends with Mark Smith. So Mark
Yeah,
Smith's lads in the academy set up, and my
right.
lad and his lad do a bit of training together, and we often catch up maybe a Saturday afternoon, and we'll have a coffee and stuff, and we talk about our experiences and sort of like what they're going through, and you can sort of like pinpoint certain landmarks if you like in their journey, even though it's different to what ours was, but we can like I'll say to Jake on the way home, they're looking for this, mate. This is what this means, and this is what we'll work on. If you've got a work ethic in you, then you'll always have a place in a team. You don't have to be the most skillful, you don't have to be the most talented. But if you're the hardest worker,
Effort
then we'll
does it
work on
all,
that.
doesn't it?
And
Yeah,
sort of that sort of speaking in that kind of terminology, I think
yeah,
the career helps. Yeah.
yeah. Right. And do you think you playing football, mate, like say back in the junior school, did that help you transition into high school? Do you think?
Not really, because it was all rugby really when the school that I went to. Like anything, isn't it? You sort of go to high school with your friends from junior school, and within maybe 3 or 4 months, you kind of not friends with them friends anymore. You've made new
Yeah,
mates within school, and my school was very much a rugby school. So my OP teacher was a coach at Orrell Union, very heavily influenced at Orrell Union as well. So it was all rugby really. Football is something you did if rugby wasn't happening, kind of thing. So
yeah, was it?
yeah, you know what I mean. But I've got good mates, and I think for me as well, I kept friends with people who wasn't involved in sport as well. So I had different sections of friends. So some of my long-standing mates have never picked up a ball in their life, never kicked a ball in their life, not sport orientated one bit, and that's nice for me. And it was nice for me as I was playing and releasing away from sport.
It's a blessing, that, mate, and it really it's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my sister taught at Abraham Guest, mate. She only left a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So small world, in it. But
It is,
I
mate.
imagine would it have been a new building now, or was that the base where your school was?
No, so I was in the old building before it got knocked down, and then they moved to what was my old junior school. That's that area. So
Yeah, because it's a
you,
posh setup and that there, isn't it?
it's nice, mate. Yeah, it's lovely. So I played with a guy called Ryan Benjifield, an Aussie, who he came over. He played for Keighley and came over to Hull originally, Hull FC, and then he ended up playing for Rochdale and Keighley and stuff like that. Anyway, Ryan was a teacher at Abraham Guest as well. He's literally about 12 months ago, he went back home to Australia. So we had a bit of a leavers do. So I'd probably come across your sister and not
Maybe, yeah. Well, she was at more than stuff, but I don't know how close that school were. But yeah, I went and I think something happened to her car, and I thought it was quite an impressive school with the 4G stuff and that.
Yeah,
Don't they have
it's had a lot
all
of funding. So a lot of funding. Yeah.
Right. So when you first come across rugby, mate, was it an instant like to it? Because the contact's very different to football, and you've got to go and sort of seek it, really, especially with you playing in the back row, innit?
Yeah, mate, I loved it straight away. I always had a passion. Like, I always loved rugby. I really respected rugby. Like I was a massive Wigan fan. Like I'd go to Wembley and stuff like that, and I love that element of it. And they were like, I suppose, idols in a way because Wigan. Well, it wasn't Wigan Warriors then, but Wigan was the biggest team in the town. Football played at a different sort of stadium called Springfield Park. They each had their own stadium, so you never really mixed, if you like, football wise. So I always had admiration for rugby, and I always liked it. I just never knew if I'd be any good at it or a way to get into it, I suppose, apart from playing at school.
Yeah. And was it both called, mate, at school then if your teacher was rugby union? Yeah.
Yeah.
So where would you have played in union?
I played flanker or back rower in union. Only at school, I had an option when I was sort of started to take rugby more serious and got to the age. So I never went through the scholarship route because I was late to the party, being at high school. So I had an option to sign at rugby union as well, a little option. I got invited down to Orrell, and I remember watching a game, and I think they played Harlequins at the time, and they gave Jason Leonard the man of the match. And he knocked up one carry in, made one tackle, but he got man of the match for scrummaging. And I was like, I went with my dad. I was like, I don't think this is for me, this dad. So I had an uncle, my mum's cousin, he's heavily involved in rugby union. He played for Sale, played for England, the British Lions, part of the British England selection committee now. Yeah. And we played once in academy games. I don't know if you remember, years ago, the academy games used to be on a Thursday night on Sky.
Okay.
They used to be on about tea time on a Thursday. And I played in a game, and he ended up ringing my mum and was like, "Is that Leigh playing?" And my mum was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, "Does he want to come to union?" So my mum was like, "Well, I'll ask him." So my mum rang and spoke to me and said, "Listen, Fran's been on the phone. He wants to know if you want to fancy double at union." And I was like, "No, I'm not having any doors open for me. I'm going to do it on my own. If I do it, I do it. If I don't, then I can hold my hands up and say I've never had help," kind of thing, bit of bravado. I wish I'd have listened now, because the money that's involved in it.
It's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. So.
Yeah. And do you know what, mate? You'd have probably, at maybe a higher level, you'd have loved the back row as well.
Yeah. I've got a new admiration for union. I always compared it to rugby league. Probably a bit arrogant towards union because I played league and it's a tougher game, league, and it's this and it's faster and it's more athletic, blah blah blah. But you can't.
That was drilled into us as well, league growing up, wasn't it?
It was. You was either a union guy or a rugby guy, or and similar in Wigan town. In Wigan town, like you're either a Latics fan or you're a Warriors fan. Very rare you're not. You're both. So it's always an either or. And you can't compare the sports. You can't compare union to league. It's two totally separate, independent sports. They're not the same. They might play with the same shit ball, but apart from that, mate, they're two tough. So I've got a new admiration for union. I don't mind watching a game or two now. And I've been to Twickenham, took the boys to Twickenham, tried to expose my boys to as much different sports as I can. So we've been to Twickenham, they've been to NFL and all that kind of stuff as well, mate, and Premier League games and stuff. So, because I don't want them to think that they have to play rugby, because I play rugby. It's not about that. It's their journey. It's their choices.
And I think again, like you won't be much older than me, to be honest, mate. But like growing up, you weren't really outside of school. You weren't encouraged to do all the sports they do now. And I love hearing that from like lads that have gone on to do really good things now that are younger than us. And they played everything under the sun, and only when it got to the scholarship age, which you were too late for, that they have to decide, don't they? Which is great because they all contribute to the player they are, don't they now?
Yeah, they do, mate. And I'm a massive believer that, like, I think when I was coming through and stuff, it was like a very much like transition years, because like there was a massive emphasis on always signing an Australian player, no matter whether he was any good or not. As long as he had an Aussie twang, they had a foot on the coach kind of thing. A massive influence of bringing Australian coaches in. We've got some fantastic coaches now, haven't we? Young British coaches, Paul Rowley, Mike Pete, Paul Wellens, Sam Burgess, they're all phenomenal coaches in their own right. They just need to be given time. And so I think, yeah, I think as well, when I was coming through, it was like kids were pigeonholed into positions. Like, you're a prop, you're a fullback. And I think that was the detriment to some people. And it hindered where I have an ethos with my kids that I coach down at Shevington, with the other coaches as well. Like, we don't want to create a prop forward or a second row. We just want to create a rugby player. So all of our kids will play a minimum of 3 positions in a year. So we've got a prop that's played halfback, because he's got nice hands.
Play now, though, isn't it? I was going to say that, yeah.
Just to expose them to that. And again, Jacob in that academy setup at football, one training session a week for probably 45 minutes, they do multi-skills. So they might play a bit of rugby, tick and pass, or they might do something else, and that's sort of embedded into them as well now. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, because the props don't just tick one now. They play out the back, they play across the front. They'll play like the run around, either front way or back way. Like it is like you're 13. It's very different, mate, isn't it? Now you're 13. It's like an extra pivot.
You only have to look at Faz, Andy Farrell, like the way he's got Ireland playing. The props are going to the line, and like you said, playing around the back, and all of a sudden, like, the union guys are like, "What's going on here? This isn't supposed to happen." He's a prop, but that little bit of thinking outside the box and developing players instead of positions is key, isn't it?
It is, mate. It is. So when you first started playing school rugby, mate, and like Mick's dad asked you to go off to Orrell, what was the standard like from school rugby to club rugby? How did you find it?
Huge difference sort of like intensity and hostility when you went to certain places and things like that, and facility wise wasn't, it was old school, and we played winter then as well. So,
I love how polite you are.
Yeah, mate. I remember once we used to train on a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday morning, and then play Sundays. Right. I remember one Saturday morning we trained. I've never been as cold in my life. And I remember rushing home because the Challenge Cup was on BBC, and it was Halifax versus Wigan. And that was my dream, that I love that, looking back, it's covered in mud and everything, but when you're going through it, you love it, don't you? But the transition was huge, but it sort of suited me a little bit more, if you like. It was a little bit quicker and things like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed that transition. Really, really enjoyed it. And I played with my mates. That was a massive thing, playing with my mates, and we just had a dig for each other. And we're still friends now, lots of us. We still see each other. One of our mates sadly passed away not long. Bloody hell, 4 or 5 years ago now. Like, as you can imagine, the church was packed.
Yeah.
And everyone turned out for him. You know, people that you've not seen for 10, 15 years, just because life's busy, and even though you live in the same town, like you don't see each other because, you know, whatever reason. And it was like we were seeing each other yesterday. You know, we carried on, and obviously it's a sad
That's the
day, but the
beauty, isn't
lads
it?
had a beer after it, and we had a crack, and
Yeah.
we spoke about our friend that had passed and stuff like that, and you know, we laughed and reminisced and stuff. So it's what rugby league gives you, mate.
Yeah. Sport's special for that, Lee, isn't it? Not just rugby, like sport is special for that.
Yeah, but yeah, 100%, mate. But I think there's something special in rugby league regarding that. Like, so I coach down at Shevington, and one of the coaches that help, and I help coach with 3 other guys, but one of the other guys is Gary Connolly. So, like,
Kids won't
Gary,
appreciate that though, will they?
no. So he's
Yeah.
just Tom's dad to their
Yeah,
lads.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
it was like one of my idols when I was watching rugby. You know what I mean? And I've always said hello to him and spoke to him, and but the guy's probably one of the most humblest guys you've ever come across. You know, he's got time for everybody. He never talks about his rugby days unless you speak to him about it. He's,
Yeah.
you know, he's just such a great guy to be around. You know, he's a friend now, which is nice to call him and stuff like that. But I think rugby league gives you that. It keeps people humble. You know, because
Yeah.
we don't earn millions of pounds. The top guys don't earn millions and millions of pounds. They've still got to find work when they've finished, and you know,
Yeah.
lots of lads within rugby league haven't had the most privileged background either. They've not gone to a
Sort
private
of gonna
school.
say that, mate. Yeah, we all sort of start from the beginning in the
Yeah,
same place, don't we?
exactly.
Yeah,
So I think rugby league's special for that, mate. It gives you.
yeah. No, it's a real honest sport, mate, isn't it? So with you starting a bit late, mate, was there anything rec wise, union or league through school? Did they send you to like
Yeah,
Lancashire?
so I played town team for Union. Only played a
Yeah,
couple of games. Went for the trials, like at rugby league. Did really well in the trials. Got told I'd done ace and all this, but never got the nod. Uh, you know, I thought it was a bit corrupt at the time. Like the coach for the town team was the coach of the local whatever team, and
usually is.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and things like
yeah.
that, mate. So it was never a fair playing field, but I accepted that. That was the game I played, and you know, I
And
understood I
did you
couldn't.
take it well, Lee? Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt, mate. Yeah,
it never bothered me, mate. Honestly, like if I didn't turn pro, that never bothered me. I wanted
yeah,
to. Don't get me wrong, I was
yeah,
driven
yeah.
and motivated to turn, but I just enjoyed playing and having a dig, and you know, and that was me, and you know, and as long as I give my best, whatever that came to, wherever that stop came, as long as I gave my best and did everything, I was quite happy to hold my hands up and say, yeah, you know, I've just given my best and it's not quite good enough, or I'm happy where I've got
Like
to,
that.
or whatever
Yeah.
that meant. You know, it's because it was
I'd have
always
wins me though. I'd have
again.
picked the wins. Yeah,
But it was never my first love. You know that
yeah.
I
I
played
get that.
football, but I evolved a little bit. So don't get me wrong, I've got some unbelievable memories and cherish a lot of things, and I've done some stuff well beyond what I've ever expected to do. Uh, so it's given me a lot, and I owe a lot. I owe a lot of debt to rugby league.
You give rugby league a lot though, mate. Like it's not once you cross the line, out can happen, and you cross it knowing that, don't you? And the sacrifices that us fans don't probably recognise sometimes. Like for instance, I think we do a bit more now because of social media. Lee, obviously, when you were at your height, you weren't pretty dominant and about, but it's more like you don't see your family over Easter really, mate, do you? And if you do, it's very scattered and gung ho, isn't it? In case it happens, a call up, an injury, or out like that. It's so as much as rugby helped you, you've certainly helped rugby, haven't you?
Yeah. You know, it's you knew I knew what I was getting into, and I was
Yeah,
more than prepared to sacrifice anything. You know, like uh, all the sort of spilt blood, all the so-called sacrifices that we make as players. I wouldn't change it for the world, mate. I
yeah,
wouldn't change it for the world. I loved every minute of it, and probably guilty of feeling like it would last forever. you know, and
You
then
are in it. When you're in it, you do, don't you,
you
mate?
do, mate, and
Yeah.
you're super fit and like, God, getting paid for this. I love
You,
it,
I
you know.
was going to say, you meant you then, didn't you? When you said super fit, you were just talking
Yeah,
about
do
you.
you know
You
what
weren't on
I
about
mean?
me.
Mate, but honestly, but like, I think rugby league especially it's a great leveler for people because, and what I mean by that is you've got some really tough lads out on the street,
Yeah.
and you bring them on a rugby field, and they're no longer tough. But you get some lads who's really nice and humble on the street and very polite and unassuming. And you put them on a rugby field, mate, and they're an absolute animal. You know, and it levels a lot of people. Uh, you know, if you get to do it at a decent level, you get to be embarrassed sometimes now and again in front of thousands of people or on TV, which happens. And you speak to all the guys, mate. Honestly, like obviously there's been massive sort of media speculation around the concussion side of things. We knew full well what we was getting into. Every single player did, and not one of them would change it. You know, and
Well, most of who I speak to, but I'd say 99% say exactly the same thing. If we could go and do it again, we would, wouldn't we? Let's not fib away.
and you know, mate, if I didn't, like I said, if I didn't make it on the pro circuit, like and play the games and stuff like that, I'd have done it in my local amateur. I'd have stayed at Orrell St James, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't change that for the world. Now, you know, if it's all right, me sat here fit and healthy, and you know, relatively got all my marbles and stuff like that. But I'm guarantee if I was sat here now in a wheelchair because of rugby league, I wouldn't have changed it for the world because it's given me so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. Like, yeah, I would. It's I don't know. It's not even like the rugby and that is great, isn't it? But it's everything else. So it can open doors like to worlds you've never even heard of. You meet people that you wouldn't meet in the street. You go and see countries, places that you've never heard of. It's just a world of opportunity, all from the
Yeah, mate,
egg-shaped ball,
and
isn't it? It's
honestly, like
bizarre.
I remember we spent 4 days in Russia rather than eating cabbage soup. But like when we see the lads now, that's what we talk about and we laugh about. You know, we got robbed off the police. Two of the lads got robbed off the police. They nicked the chain off them. Like, so it's
Yeah,
great. You know, like you said, it exposes you to so much, and you know, it opens other doors. It helped me with my, you know, when transitioning out of playing into my job and stuff like that. It's helped me massively, and you deal with lots of different people, and it conditions you for lots of different things in the world and lots of things that are coming of it. Like you mentioned earlier about the social media side, you do get snippets now, which is great, but it's also a negative side of things because people can reach to you, you know, and sometimes when you're getting the flack as a player, you can handle that. You can handle that all day of the week, you know. I remember going to OKR once and I was going down the tunnel to OKR and there's like an 80-odd-year-old woman trying to spit at us. It's like, mate, do you know what I mean? I think she had one tooth, but you know, I think she won Miss Hull like that year as well. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm only joking. But like, but it's when it involves your missus or your kids see it, and that sort of side is sort of like is difficult, isn't it?
did you reckon it's probably a blessing you played when you did that? Because like you don't need telling when you've had a bad game, lead here, or you've made an error. You're under your sticks. You know everyone knows you've made that error. You know you've made that error. You don't need it like putting on Twitter for little snippets every like other minute and people tagging you in it, dear. It's bad
Yeah,
enough when you
no,
stood under the post.
yeah, mate, and nobody will hold you more accountable than your teammates. I can guarantee that. Or your
Yeah,
coach on a Monday morning when he's doing a video review and spending half an hour just on your clip where you've made an error and he's makes you feel about that big. But it's all
yeah,
part. You've got to remember, like as a player, it's coming from a good place.
yeah.
Because we're all in it for the same reason. We're all trying to get to the same destination.
It's very
So
rarely personal, is it?
no, it's you
Yeah,
know, and listen, if you've got like I had Paul Cullen at Widnes for quite a
yeah,
while, and I can't speak highly enough about that man, who he was as a man, integrity wise, and you know he was going through the worst time of his life with his
yeah.
wife, but that guy never missed a training session. He never rocked up 1 minute late. Never used that as an excuse. And sometimes there's a lot bigger picture than rugby, isn't there? You know,
His
you
perspective is
know,
key in it.
and that was sat
Yeah,
there and like, wow, this guy is like, and he was honest. If he thought you were shit, he would tell you you were shit. If you thought you was all right, he'd tell you he was all right. So you know exactly where you stood. And I think as a player, you just want honesty and integrity.
Would you have preferred that direct approach, mate? Yeah.
That's what I loved, you know. And like I said, my admiration for Paul is through the roof. He was a gentleman, and I love the way he went about his business. And you know, like I said, everything about the guy was first class.
Right, mate. So, looking at leaving school then, what was you looking at like? Because, like you said, you didn't hit the scholarship route, did you? So, was rugby an option leaving, or?
Yeah, so I'm sort of like I'd had trials at a few clubs, gone in for trials, but I never wanted to continue that a little bit. Uh,
So,
I
what
wanted to
would
be
that have involved? Sorry, Lee. Would that have like out your own pocket? You just rock up to like what is it
no,
like
so I've
a
been
behind the
invited to
closed doors game?
no, so I've been invited down to come down train at a few clubs or and do some game and stuff like that. Because like the like two phases of scholarship, isn't there? So they sign at like 13, 14 or whatever it is till 16 and then 16 onwards. So at that point, like I've been invited in and I'd gone into a couple of clubs, but I never really, again, it just didn't bother me. It wasn't the fact that I never, like all the time I played, I never walked around with the club's trackie on or to say I played rugby league. Do you know what I mean? Where sometimes you'll go in Costa Coffee
I'm
now.
with you for that.
You know, sometimes you go in Costa Coffee, don't you? You see lads sat there, the drip head to toe in the club gear, and it's like, it's not my thing, that. So, yeah, so it needed, I wasn't just going to be at a club because it was a professional club, you know, or anything like that. I had a great time when I was at some of those clubs. But yeah, and I sort of like wanted to go down and maybe be an architect or something like that, I thought. And then I got offered an apprenticeship at 16 and an engineer, which I took. And then it was, and then Oldham came in. And that's where the journey started, really.
So, do you know when you're going into like a professional club like that, mate? Are you aware of that at that age of like the seriousness of it?
So, what, again, it's crazy how this sort of came about. So, one of the lads who played at Orrell with me and his dad helped coach was a guy called Eric Hughes.
Right.
He used to play hooker for St Helens, not the coach Eric Hughes. I think Eric was like, he was a legend of a bloke. I think he was the only. I think he was the first person in rugby league to get sent off twice in a game. Eric, like, it's ultimate competitor, like, and you speak to his like Big Jim Mills is one of his ex teammates, and you speak to Jim and that about him, and everyone holds him in high regard. Eric passed away a couple of years ago, sadly. And he was always like to me, you've got something. You need to push forward. You need to pull. And I was like, well, whatever happens. I was probably a bit polite, really, if you like. And not, my dad was just like happy for me to do whatever I wanted to do. He wasn't a pushy parent whatsoever. He was there for every step of the way. But he was like, it's your decision, mate. Whatever you want to do, I'll support you 100%. But I was very much, I'm not having any doors open for me. I'm doing it on my own, or my dad's not having a word with his mate, or whatever that is. Funnily enough, and then one Friday night, I got a phone call from Eric, and he said, he's called me Biggin. No, Biggin, what are you up to? I said, nothing, Eric. I said, I've just been to the gym or whatever. And he said, what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, nothing much. Probably just go to the gym again. He went, you're not. He said, you're playing for Oldham tomorrow. You're going up to Whitehaven for Oldham's under 21s. He said, you need to be at the Old Engine for 7 o'clock in the morning, which was a pub in Wigan on a place called Springs Road. He said, you'll be getting picked up there by the bus. I was like, and whatever Eric said, you did. And I was like, all right. He said, make sure your boots are clean. I said, all right, Eric, no worries. And that guy drove up to Whitehaven to watch the game, like on his own accord. He rang my dad and said, listen, I'll pick you up in the morning. We're going up watching. That's the kind of guy he was. Nothing was too much trouble for him. Again, I'm forever in his debt. He's an unbelievable guy. His son signed for St Helens at the time. I think it was St Helens or Warrington. Dave signed for Warrington. Phenomenal player in his own right. Dave, like one of the main guys at my age coming through. you know, as well as Mick and stuff like that. And I went up to Whitehaven and played for Oldham under 21s. And I came off the bench, just did what I did. And I used to think like to myself, I'm not the most skillful. I'm not the most naturally gifted. I'm not the fastest. But how can I do something different? And that's where I brought my offloading a little bit, and I could offload a ball in many different circumstances. I could offload. I was always quite decent at that. I thought so anyway. And I went on there and I did really well. I think I set 2 or 3 tries up and did whatever. And on the way home on the bus, there was a coach called Mark Knight. He was there at the time. He's from Widnes, Mark. Yeah. And he came over and said, who do you play for at the moment? What clubs are you associated with? And I was like, none. I'm not anywhere. I'm at Orrell St James and that's it. And he said, right. And then he came to me and said, expect a phone call. And it went from that really. And then I played a couple more games in the reserves. And then Mike Ford was the coach at Oldham at the time. And I got picked in the first team to travel with the first team. And then they wanted to offer me a deal, which I was more than happy to stay at Oldham. I loved it. Everyone was great. You know, I was learning off some really experienced, old, tough guys and some younger guys as well at the time. And they'd signed a few lads from Wigan who'd been released, so like Phil Farrell, Neil Roden. They had the Gibbons twins there, Jason Clegg, a big prop, Leo Casey, a really old head prop, like he was the most expensive forward in his day, Leo at Featherstone. Real tough, but learned loads off them. Andy Proctor was another one. And I loved it because it wasn't the goldfish bowl like if you went to there wasn't as much expectation and pressure on, but it was a club where everyone pulled in the same direction, and I loved that. And that's where I went, mate. And then I got offered a deal off them, and I was like, "Yep, okay." Went down, they offered me the deal, and I signed it. But the week before, I got told to expect a phone call, and the phone call never came. I didn't know who it was, but someone just said to me, "Listen, you're going to get a phone call over the weekend." That was it, really. Anyway, the phone call never came, so I signed for Oldham on the Friday. On the Friday night, I think it was. And on the Saturday morning, was at the house. My dad answered the phone. My dad said, "All right, I'll put him on." My dad said, "It's for you." And when it was Brian Noble at Bradford, and they'd ringing to offer me a deal, but I'd signed at Oldham, and I was like, I've literally just signed at Oldham. I'd love to have gone to Bradford. Don't get me wrong, you know. That was when the Bradford era was like in full swing and taking off, I suppose. And then, but I made a commitment to Oldham, and that's where I sort of like was.
So it's probably like a bit of a sliding door moment, mate, isn't it? Because as big a club as Bradford was and still is, really, mate, isn't it? It's like, what opportunity would you have had?
Yeah, no.
You might have got loads, you might have got a little, but because you were already happy where you was as well, it's probably like.
I had no regrets, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't miss what you've not had, do you? I suppose. You know.
Yeah.
No.
So what was that 7 o'clock bus journey like? Considering you didn't really know anyone, probably, and
Yeah, it was a long journey. Like the lads were great, you know. They made you feel welcome and they had it, but you're an outsider, aren't you? So like, I remember just sat on the bus like there was no iPhones then or anything, so there was nothing to like, no games, no earpods or anything like that. So I was like, anyway, yeah, just we stopped at T-Bay to stretch our legs a little bit, and you know, a couple of lads had a chat and stuff, and I remember getting up there and thinking, wow, this is a long way. First time I'd ever been to Whitehaven, really, and I was like, wow, this is gone back in time here a little bit, little village.
It's a track as well.
Great, mate, don't get me wrong, but and then sort of like, because I must have done all right, because on the bus journey home, it was a lot more warmer, the coach. Everyone was like chatting a bit more and, you know, and stuff like that.
School and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's good, mate, it's good.
So do you think that was probably the ideal club to start, like, find your feet in rugby league then, really, mate, and to get the exposure?
Yeah, the club was on an upward curve a little bit, believe it or not, like with 40 in charge. We did well. I think it was my first season, or might have been my second season. We got to the grand final and lost against Widnes.
Yeah.
And I was 18th man that day.
How
Yeah,
old would you have been there, Lee? Because that's a big occasion, really. Then, wasn't it? Because
about
whoever won
16,
was always going up, weren't they?
16, maybe 17, mate, if that.
Bloody hell, that's like good experience for you, though, isn't it? To be in and
Yeah,
around.
yeah. So I made my Oldham first team debut against Leigh at Hilton Park. I remember
Right.
it was freezing cold, freezing. And they had like Timmy Street propping.
Yeah.
And I remember getting off the bus because you make the coach at like the Greyhound pub, and then you get on the bus to drive into the club thing. Yeah. Timmy Street was sat in the tunnel, mate, and he had one resting on the wall with one foot against the wall, smoking a cig. And he went,
Old school.
old school, mate, and he went uh, he said, "Welcome to professional rugby league, lads." I was like, wow. But
What a place.
yeah, but sort of, I think as a kid coming through, like, I wanted to play professional. I had a goal to play professional if I could, whether that was in football or in rugby. And I was probably guilty of thinking my life would change overnight. Like I signed a professional contract. Wow, the life's going to change. And it didn't. Nothing does. My dad still got up for work the morning after. My mum still got up, went to work. I still had to get up and go to school, whatever that is. And your life doesn't change overnight. So that's like the biggest thing. Just going back to the question earlier, where with my lad in the game ball and the academy set up, keeping them grounded and sort of thing. So
The hard work doesn't stop, mate, does it? It doesn't matter where you go. It's out. What is it if it outworks talent, doesn't it? You can have the talent, but if you don't work
yeah,
hard, and
and no
yeah,
matter whatever you do, mate, in the game, so I was like, right, what's next?
yeah.
You know,
I know you just
always.
never get a chance to enjoy it, really, do you? It's like it is always what's next and the next week, and like, I know they say it's a cliche, but thought they ask you about certain games, go, oh, we'll take it week by week, but there are moments you circle and go, I just want to get to that fit and healthy, and then let's see what happens. And there's bound to be, but it's like you get ridiculed for having character, Lee, don't you? You get
Yeah,
ridiculed for being
yeah.
honest.
And I think sometimes as well, it's like people get ostracized a little bit for being a bit different.
Mm.
Like Anthony Gelling when he
Yeah.
was at Wigan, mate, he used to ride to the game on his BMX.
No, he stopped off at an house party or something, didn't he, on his way home after a derby or
It's
something?
just
Like,
like you need characters in the game, don't you? You need that, and I think we're
you do.
losing that as we're going. You know,
Yeah.
we like Mikey Lewis at Hull KR, phenomenal talent, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he is a bit of a character, and he's a bit of a chirpy chappy. But the game was full of them 15 years ago, but now he's like
No, it's like
top
we're
of the world.
scared of using him as like a marketing tool, aren't we?
Yeah,
Like, why should we be frightened of using him?
yeah,
And it's like they worry about people's like bad language and stuff, mate. Some of the best Sky Sports presenters do like the footy podcast that you probably listen to yourself. They're all effing and jeffing on it because with the mates being normal.
yeah.
It's what people do.
It is. It is.
No,
It is.
you don't need to drag like the personality out of someone. Just let them go and be them. It'll sell
Yeah,
the
yeah,
game.
yeah.
What else
100%
I was
agree with
gutted about, mate, is they were on about the Lancashire Yorkshire game, weren't they?
you.
Now they've said they're not doing it.
Yeah. So it's like it goes back to sort of maybe school times as well, doesn't it? Where they're trying to get rid of that sort of competitiveness. Like sports day, nobody wins.
Yeah,
Everyone's,
I don't get it.
and
Yeah.
it's in us,
Life
isn't it?
ain't like that really, is it?
It's not, mate. It's in us, and
No.
losing's fine if you learn from it.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest keys to success there is losing, and but it's got to be channeled right. But to sort of like level that playing field, it's not good, mate. It's not good. I don't think
No.
anyway.
So when leaving Oldham, mate, was it amicable? What was the story around leaving and where
Yeah,
did you go?
well, yeah. So Fordy left Oldham and went to Saracens Rugby Union. Uh, During the season after, again, I had a good season, and it was when Huddersfield was in the Championship under Tony Smith. And towards the back end of the year, I've been offered a new deal at Oldham. But there's a couple of other sort of clubs interested as well, got told. And then I was on a warm weather training camp with Oldham, and it was in the paper that Huddersfield had wanted to sign me. And then I got a phone call, and the chairman came over and was like, "What's this about Huddersfield?" And I was like, "I don't know. First time I've known about it." Like, and then they made an approach to sign me, Huddersfield, Tony Smith, as they was going back up to Super League that year. But there was some sort of, I can't remember, I think it was like the Bosman ruling or something, because I was under 21. Like, the club still held my registration, even though they wanted to, if I wanted to go anywhere. And at that time as well, I'd just been picked for Ireland. So it was like, all right, well, not only that, you're now an international player. And I was like, I'm not an international player. But finance-wise, it made, so from everything I can gather, that the move never happened. I wanted it to happen, but it never happened because price, I think, the ridiculous compensation that was being asked.
So it involved like a compensation fee for being club trained and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So Ireland comes along, mate.
Yeah.
How does that come along, and how did you enjoy that?
Again, I didn't know. So when you obviously sign a professional contract, you sign, and then you put a bit of your family history, and you tick boxes of what you can qualify for. So yeah, I ticked obviously the boxes, and then just played, and then it was one Monday morning. So we played a game. I think we played somewhere like Barrow away the night before on the Sunday. Coach journey back. It's a good idea to get a couple of beers. All the lads had a couple of beers, and then like there was a Wigan bus that used to travel. So then it was like, should we go out for a few beers tonight, because we had no training the day after and stuff like that. So yeah. So we ended up going out for a few beers, and the morning after I got a phone call. I thought it was a hoax at first, so I was like, yeah, and put it down kind of thing. And then it was like, no, you've been selected to play in the squad kind of thing, and blah blah blah. And it was like, wow, okay, brilliant. And then you get a letter through and stuff like that to turn, and more information to say like, where we're meeting, this is what we need to do, blah blah blah. And just went from that, mate. And I was like, yeah, I just went with the flow, to be fair.
Yeah. And so what is this? You're probably not 20 at this point, or like you're around 20.
Yeah, 19, I think, something like that.
That's some achievement, mate, considering you've not come through the normal.
Yeah, so like my dad said to me, like, when I got picked, like, and my mum and dad have, in my old room at the house, they've got my initial shirts up, my hat, my cap in my room,
it's
like,
that though.
Yeah, mate. And my dad was like, I think my dad said, but he said, not 4 years ago, mate, you hadn't even picked up a rugby ball and kicked it. So I was like, yeah. Sometimes when you sit back and reflect on that, it's like, yeah, pretty mad. But again, it was just one of them. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go with the flow. You know what I mean? I've never been sort of like scared of failing at something. Let's have a crack. Let's do it. Let's roll the dice and dare to dream a bit.
Not saying you're this way inclined, Lee, by no means, but does that also allow you to go into negotiations with a bit of a bargaining tool for better terms?
I never used it. No. I never used that. Again, mate, I was never in the game for money.
Yeah.
I had a goal that I wanted to get to where as far as I could get, and then sort of like walk away from the game, if you like, and be satisfied with where I got to. I didn't want to have, I should have done that or I could have done that. It was like, I'm in it. Let's give it everything I've got and let's see where it takes us. I dare say it came up probably in a conversation like, but yeah.
So it should though, by the way.
I suppose. And people sometimes you come across people that want to sign you, and you probably come across it yourself, mate, like, but they've done the due diligence on you. So they'll tell you things about you, what you possibly forgot sometimes.
And would so that had shocked you, would it?
And you'd be
The
like,
fact they know a
well,
bit about you.
they know a bit
Yeah.
about me. They cared. They took their time to look into me, and they're like, and invest in me a little bit, you know. And then there's other people that you go into another club and they're bargaining truly, slagging every other club off. Don't go there because they'll do this to you. They'll treat you like shit. They'll not pay you on time. They'll not do this. They'll not do that. And they'll do the same. Blah blah blah. And we've heard there's lots of trouble at that club, so I'd be mindful about thinking about going to them. You know, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
you come across all
yeah,
kinds, mate. You know, it
yeah.
is what it is. It's all part of the
No,
fun,
it
isn't it?
is. It is, mate. Yeah. So you go to do you go Rochdale, don't you, Lee?
Yeah, I went to Rochdale,
Yeah,
so obviously 40 left. Uh, the board at Oldham then sort of didn't help me facilitate the move to Huddersfield.
yeah,
The, sort of like, we've got you, and you can't do anything about it basically. And I was like, that didn't really sit well with me, if you like. And I still love playing at Oldham. I love the fans. The fans were unbelievable. The lads were unbelievable. But I came to the end of my contract, and it was like, and they was like, all right, well, we want to re-sign you. We want to do this. And when I was like, you forgot what you said 12 months ago. I know you was, and that's the beauty of sport, isn't it? Some work comes back round a little bit. And
yeah. Is it scary being off contract, Lee? Sorry to interrupt. Or at that point in your career, is it a position of power, maybe?
yeah, a bit of both, mate. I think at that point, like I hadn't met my wife or anything, so it was
Yeah.
just me. So
Right.
I think if you've got a family and you've got a mortgage and all of that, then it's like things are a bit more
Yeah,
serious, aren't they? Where
yeah,
I was still living at home with my mum and dad,
yeah,
so I was being quite savvy with my money, and I was all right financially and stuff like that. My dad made sure I was financially sound and stuff like that. So it wasn't. Sometimes it's a waiting game, and sometimes it works in your favour, and sometimes it doesn't, kind of thing.
yeah.
But the thing. So then one night I got a phone call. Bobby Goulding, who was at Rochdale at the time,
Yeah.
coach, and he was like, "Mate, I love everything about you. I want to sign yourself, and I want to sign Phil Farrell. He's Andrew's brother. I want you to come to Rochdale." He said, "We're building something here. We're off scratch a little bit, but you'll play a big part in that, and you'll have a great time along the way. And it's not too serious, but it's business before banter, but there's a lot of banter there as well, kind of thing. That makes sense." And I suppose I sort of wanted to stick the knife in a little bit. It was Rochdale, and I was moving from Oldham to Rochdale, local rival a little bit, and that appealed a little bit. Not nothing against the fans, just to get back at the
Yeah,
director.
listen, mate, fans don't get it, do they, until they hear it.
Yeah,
So, like, yeah, I could probably understand how it looked, but it's never personal, it's business.
yeah, mate. So to be fair, we met, and probably the deal was done and dusted within 15 minutes. You've come across Bobby many times. He's infectious in here, and
Yeah,
again, another idol that I watched growing up and thinking, God, this guy's great and stuff like that. And yeah, so we done and dusted, me and Phil, and we'd signed, and that was it.
yeah. And you won player of the year there, mate, didn't you? So
I
your
did.
game's more than just an offload league. So you're starting to develop yourself here now, mate. And did you feel comfortable there? Did you feel like you could kick off?
Yeah. I felt like Bobby was like, listen, you've got free reign here. I want you to just to bring the best version of you. The lads back you 100%. Come in, you do what you do. Could bring with your standard, and sort of like it's about raising standards a little bit. So you turn up at training. I was always into the thing where you turn up at training. Training was on the hour, let's say. We'd always be there 45 minutes earlier, stretching, making sure that we're ready to train on the hour. We didn't want to turn up on the hour and then start to stretch. It was all like bringing that into line a little bit and setting standards. And we had a great time, mate. We had some really old lads in the team, real old tough nuts. We had some young lads, and some low knees came in as well, which added a bit of energy to us. We just, I suppose, it was like the Wimbledon, the rugby at the time, the crazy gang a little bit, but it suited us, mate. Everything went well, and everyone was pulling in the same direction. There was no big egos. and everyone just rolled the sleeves up and had a good crack, mate.
And you're playing for Ireland as well, mate, aren't you still?
Yeah.
So are you finding your feet more on that stage as well, mate, and becoming
Yeah.
comfortable
So
there?
yeah, mate. Yeah. So I think sort of that. I think that year then we played England in the European final at Warrington's ground. So like, we lined up against the English team, like, and they're like, all the superstars, and there's a few of us that play, and a couple of homegrown lads from Ireland, and Baz Mack was in the team at the time as well, and he's like, galvanising everybody, and again, mate, it was just like a workman's sort of attitude, and everyone dug in for each other, and whatever will be, but we'll not give up. It's very hard to beat someone that doesn't give up in it.
Yeah, it is, mate. Especially like you said, it's a shot window for you as well, really. I know you're not thinking like that, probably, mate. You're enjoying the freedom at Rochdale, playing probably some of the best stuff you've played so far. You still managed to represent some form of heritage of the family. And like you said, I know we'd have all probably expected it to change overnight, but you're still living the dream to this point, mate, aren't you?
Yeah, oh mate, listen, like I said, like, don't get me wrong, I loved it every minute. Like, I really hope that players these days could reach the level of happiness that I was when I was playing. No matter what, no matter what, the level of happiness that I had when I was playing. I just loved being with the boys and with my mates, and I'd work really hard. And I always had the odds stacked against me because I didn't start very early and stuff like that, and all of that. But that sort of like, it took the pressure off a bit, and it was like,
Yeah.
just give it a go, mate. Just let's roll that dice and let's go. And that's what it was.
You know what? I think it was a blessing, really, mate, because you weren't structured, was you? You didn't have a set framework of play from 7 or 8. You were a bit like on Footy Manager. You give your number 10 a free roll, don't you?
Yeah,
Like that you just go and exploit an edge, see what you
yeah,
can do.
yeah, mate, yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, you're the biggest villain going at you.
Like you
But
said,
I
though,
had
it's
good
a
play.
lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. But it's easy to do that when you've got good players around you, and players that trust you and back you. And we had a massive thing where we were built on trust. Trust the man inside of you, trust the man outside of you, and we'll be fine. Don't try and do his job, and you just do your job, and he'll do his job, and that kind of thing. And it worked, mate. It did, it really did. We had some great times, some great
That's
wins.
underestimated, that, in it. Just doing your job, like the magic moments. If you don't do them every week, don't do them.
Yeah.
You don't need to do anything special and
No, mate.
unfamiliar if
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
what you do.
100%. So you see, like, uh, so there's a guy called Tommy Hodgkinson. Tommy Hodge, I don't know if remember Tommy. Tommy was,
Yeah, he played loose forward for Widnes for a bit, didn't he?
yeah, he did, mate. He did. Played for
Yeah,
St Helens a little bit and stuff. Tough guy, real tough nut. And he played for Widnes when I played at Oldham and we played in the grand final.
yeah,
And like, I remember him saying the night before, like, and I know Martin Compton quite well. Like, Crommy's top guy as well. Like, but I remember he said to me, I was in the hotel the night before the grand final, and Andy Kelly, I think it was the coach, wasn't it?
Neil Kelly.
Neil,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
Neil, and he turned around and he said, "Well, Tommy, what would you normally do night before a game?" And Tommy went, truthfully, and he was like, "Yeah." He went, "I'd have 4 Guinness." He went, "Well, why not have 4
Don't
Guinness?"
have it. Yeah, yeah.
He went, "Well, we've got grand final tomorrow." He went, "Do what you do normal." Like,
He must
that
have
kind of
slipped
thing.
the G, mustn't he?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's that kind of thing. Nothing has to change. It's just a game of rugby, innit? No
Yeah,
matter what stage it's on, it's
yeah,
just a game of rugby.
yeah. Do you
So,
know what, mate? I worked for the council, right? And Tommy at the time was working for the housing trust, so it's like a charitable version of the council.
yeah,
I was just filling up at like the depot and I looked, and I was like, obviously, I'd have been like 11
yeah,
when we got promoted, and I was a bit, it's
yeah.
starstruck,
Top
and
guy,
he
Tommy.
hadn't
Like,
changed. He hadn't changed. So I just looked at him where he just went, "All right, mate." I was like, "Yeah." I just kept filling up and just looked away, like
yeah,
bit
mate,
buggish, really. But I
mate.
just
We
thought, what a
played.
legend.
I'll tell you a little bit of a story about Tommy. We played Featherstone at Featherstone one day when I was at Rochdale. Always a tough place to go, and they had a guy, a Kiwi guy that played for them, and he rented a house off Tommy in St Helens. Something went on. I don't know what went on, but obviously he moved to up Featherstone Way. Now, whether he'd not paid the rent or he'd left the house like a bit of a shithole, I don't know what had gone on. That's God's honest truth. But they came across each other on the landing in the staircase in Featherstone, going up to the players' bar. And I remember I come out of the changing room, like put my bag on my back, and I was walking up the stairs, and I was thinking, what is that noise? When I got to the top of the stairs, this guy and Tommy were just tupping each other. Like, mate, it sounded like two wildebeests, like just tupping heads. Like, they both got massive Swedes on them anyway. Do you know what I mean? And they were just absolutely ramming their heads in, like, and I was like, what is that? It was just them two clashing. You don't tup a Kiwi anyway, do you? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But they were just leathering each other, and I was like, whoa, we jumped in and split it up, like, neither of them were for backing down, like, but like, my money was on Tommy.
Yeah. No, honestly, mate, he just hadn't changed either, and I just thought I felt like a kid again because that team is like a special team as well, really.
Yeah, mate.
And what's mad is that that's the first game I like took real serious as a fan. That because the town was buzzing and stuff. It was just a surreal moment. But yeah, he didn't change. And to be fair, mate, you look as young as you did when you were playing, don't you?
A few more
So
grey
they're
hairs, mate.
keeping you
But
young. The taxiing, innit?
mate, I still keep fit. I train with the boys when we do the rugby training. I think it like when trained all my life, haven't I? Obviously, you've been from a full time environment, part time environment, and all of that. You trained all your life. So why stop when you're retired? That's I still train every day. Get up at 4:30 every morning. I'm in the gym at 5 a.m. Train till about 7, or get the kids ready for school. Drop them off at school. Then I go off and do my job. Pick them up later on, whatever, and then we're training or trying to get a couple of miles in a week running wise and stuff. But yeah, why stop when you've retired?
That's why you look like that and I look like this.
Mate, I don't feel it.
So with this comes along, mate, and what type of chat went on, and was it a sad day leaving Rochdale, given the freedom and the platform you were on?
Yeah, mate, yes and no. Like, it's always sad leaving because like when I've signed for someone, I'm committed, and like I don't have desires to go anywhere else until someone comes for me. If that makes sense. I was loyal that way through the good times and the bad times, and like I said, I never jumped ship because money or anything like that. It was never the case. But Bobby had left Rochdale. Again, that was another big void that was left, the character that he was. And, he was playing alongside some of your heroes sometimes, mate. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. We had a great environment, but obviously when a new coach comes in, there's a sort of different, he wants to bring his own ideas and his own philosophies and his own culture and stuff like that. And, which was great, mate. Really good. And then how Widnes came about. So I went to St Pat's one Saturday afternoon to watch the old Great Britain legends against the Army. So like Bobby played in the game and a few of them. And there was a guy from Widnes called Martin Ball who was friends with Bobby at the time. He came and he acted like a little bit as a team manager, like, and stuff like that. And I went into the bar at St Pat's to get an orange. And I was walking out, he came over was chatting away, and he said, I think Widnes want you. That's some rumours around like town, if you like, or whatever that is. He said they're going to make some quite significant signings. I think they're going to call it the Magnificent Seven. There were 7 of us that signed on the same day.
Yeah.
He said, and they want you to be one of them, mate. How do you feel about that? I was like, I'm happy to talk to him, mate. Yeah. When Widnes come knocking, you know what I mean? It's an unbelievable club, isn't it? Steeped in history, and I was like, wow, like me. They were interested in me, kind of thing. Me, sure, not him or whatever. Like, and it was that. So then, yeah, we had a meeting, and it was done and dusted, mate. I seen it. I was made up to sign. Yeah.
So would clubs often do that, where you say, like, listen, our plans are this, we're looking at A, B, and C. Would they try and use that to swing you, maybe?
It depends. Sometimes it depends, mate. So like when with Widnes kind of thing, there was like, we've got a 3-4 year plan in place. This is what we want to do. So we're going to start with a solid foundation. We've got revenue there to be able to invest into the team, and everyone will be like full time if you like, and stuff like this. You know what I mean? And then they give you that vision of what their plans are. Like, we'd like to offer you a 12-month deal, or we'd like to offer you a 2-year deal, or whatever that may be. But we see you a major part of this, and we think we can go somewhere with this, and the age that you're at, you can be a massive part of this, and that sort of kind of thing. Like I said, some of them will sell you the dream, some of them will be totally honest with you.
Yeah,
you've got to be wise enough to read the lines.
Yeah, you've got to see what's in the middle, which is usually the truth. Yeah. So the player option was never a thing, no, mate, was it? If it was a 12-month, it was 12 on it. If it was 2 years, it was 2 years. It was never, I'll give you a year and an option in your favour. Like, that's like new terminology, really, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, it is, mate. It is. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I could be cheeky. I sat there and they go, "We'll offer you a 1-year deal." I say, "Well, why not a 2?
Yeah. Different part of this plan.
If you think I'm good enough, why not a 2?" And to be honest with you, I very rarely got offered a 1-year deal. So probably towards the back of your career where you get, because you don't know how long you're going to last and stuff like that. But yeah, mate. Yeah. So like I said, it wasn't tough negotiations with Widnes at all. It was like, this is who we are, this is what we've got, this is what we want to offer, we want you to be a part of it. He's like, yeah, no worries, where's the pen? Can't wait to get started, kind of thing.
Was it everything you wanted it to be, mate? How did you find it with us?
Mate, mega. Yeah. I loved absolutely every minute of it. Like going from the environments that I was in, like first time I went to Widnes, it was like this is professional rugby now. This is what like you had your players' lounge where you could relax in between training sessions, and that kind of environment. And that's no disrespect to any of the other clubs, because they didn't have them finances in place to do that. They still treated you like unbelievably, and I thank every single one of them clubs that I've been at. I'm forever in their debt for what they've given me. But Widnes was like, wow, this is special. Steeped in history. Big lad was the kit man at the time. So my philosophy was, you always make friends with the kit man, no matter where you're at, because they'll look after you, give you a bit of extra kit, and have a breathing and stuff, and talk to Paul, and he font of knowledge of the club, mate, and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like,
he's there from child, wasn't he? Child to man, Paul.
I always did it with the kit men. Like, it's great that the directors and the chairman will tell you this and that, but I wanted to hear it from someone who's been there from behind the scenes as well. So the kit man, they're not doing it because they're making mega money. They're doing it because they love the club. Yeah. So I sat with him and was like, what does this club mean? What does it mean to you as a fan? Because it's got to mean that to me as a player. And that kind of ethos about it.
What? Players don't. Not many players will have done that, though. Lee. I like that, though.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. It's each to their own, isn't it? But it was important to me to understand. I knew how big Widnes was, don't get me wrong, but it's almost because it had been such a big club and then it dwindled. The fans that were there were the real fans, weren't they? I suppose the hardcore ones, Pat and stuff like that. Some people jump on it for the good times and then they'll jump again. To understand what it meant to the real fans and how important the club was in their life, and things like that. And people have moved wedding days because the game Widnes were playing, and do you know what I mean? And you've got loved ones that have been buried, scattered ashes, or you've had a Widnes coffin, and all of that kind of people. I think as players we underestimate that impact.
Yeah.
So it was important.
I love that about you, mate. That you've got to sort that. Really, it's like. Sure, it shows it shows you're genuine as well, doesn't it? That you're not I don't think some players are mercenaries. Let's not beat around the bush. They go where the money is, and that's fine, isn't it, mate? It's a short career. You do what you need to do. But there won't have been many players that sat down with Paul and asked him what Widnes meant to him. And but I think you could any big game, you could feel it in the town, though, couldn't you?
You could, mate. It was unbelievable. The amount of pride that I had playing for Widnes, driving into work every morning to the stadium, and Yeah, it was mega. It was mega, mate. It was a dream come true.
So what are the standout moments from the first spell, mate?
Uh, Obviously, we played in the Northern Rail finals, didn't we? We got to the grand final. We fell short in the grand final. Felt that week we panicked a bit. If I'm honest with you, the grand final week, uh, we threw in a couple of extra training sessions in. Like,
Away from the norm.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no listen whether it's right or wrong, who knows? But obviously, that, things like that, and I just felt we sort of like the occasion got to us a little bit, and we because we played Cast a few weeks before at Castleford and we beat them. I think we
Yeah.
beat them.
Good cast team though, Lee, wasn't it?
Pardon?
It was a good cast team that though.
Class, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
real two very evenly matched teams.
Yeah.
I thought, across the board, they had the superstars in it, the glamour boys, the ones that turn a game like that, and then they had the guys that would work and keep their head down and do 40 tackles in that game and all the shit carries. They had a good blend of everything that you need to be a successful team, but as did Widnes.
Yeah.
And we had a great culture, we had a great team spirit. I think from speaking to people and stuff like that, our team spirit was far more superior than theirs. We was a lot more galvanised than there was. Just that they got it right on the day, I think.
Yeah.
They had a great coach in Terry Matheson. He played at the top, hadn't he? And he'd been
Yeah.
involved in some big games, and maybe we was a little bit naive going into that final. I don't know.
So how did you manage that week, mate? And how do you make it as normal as possible?
Just exactly that, mate. Nothing changed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't eat a steak the night before because I was playing a grand final because I don't normally eat steak. You know what I mean? It was just normal stuff. It was like probably I wasn't probably supposed to be there. Me was I?
I know
In
you're
our,
dead chilled out in it. It's yeah, I know what you're
like I
saying
wasn't
because you're the
supposed to be
pride of
there,
the
so it was
wave.
like, mate, this
Yeah.
could be the last time you ever on this kind of stage. So just enjoy the moment.
Yeah. Do you never ever get nervous, mate, before a game?
A little bit. Sometimes I think nerves are
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
up to a certain point, and then I never did because I believed in my preparation and what I'd
Yeah.
done in the week to prepare for a game. So I was always trusted that process, if you like.
Yeah.
You got a little bit nervous, mate, and sometimes like when we played the grand final at Headingley, like was in the changing room before the game. Steve would give us his speech, like, and we'd all sat there, and then we had about a minute or so just to sit there, and you could hear the fans, and it was like, right, this is it now. This is the time. Like that probably everything that you all them sacrifices, like I said, mate, earlier, and sort of like the long trips up the M62 and the cold nights, early mornings, sacrifices of spilt blood, all the, if I could bottle that moment in that changing room with my best mates before we played probably the biggest game of our club career, certainly. To listen to the fans, to what it meant to them, to be back on that stage again, it was unbelievable. It was special.
Yeah, imagine unless you put a proper shot on or you make something happen, you don't often replicate that, do you?
No, no, and we had a couple of lads that came in from Wigan on loan. I don't know if you remember at the time, like Joel Tompkins came in, Liam Farrell came in, and stuff like that. And they got the nod over a couple of the lads that had been there from the start of the season. Little things like,
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it doesn't go
listen,
down
it's
well.
professional sport, and you go with whatever you
Yeah,
feel the team is the best. And, but you probably, I think, I sort of like felt, well, if we lose today, they're going back to Wigan tomorrow. They're not arsed. Not that they're not arsed, but they've got another
it doesn't
story.
mean as much.
They've
Yeah,
got another
yeah,
story. They're a Wigan player playing for Widnes. They're not a Widnes player playing.
yeah,
That kind of stuff. That's what I think we got it wrong a little bit.
yeah,
Maybe a little bit naive. But you don't know what you're governed by, do you? By the parent club. Sometimes the
yeah.
agreement is that they play and stuff like that.
No, that's it, and it all pressure from someone a bit above a coach internally and stuff to
Yeah. And listen, they've gone
strengthen
on
a
to have
friendship.
phenomenal careers, haven't they? So
Correct,
you
mate.
know,
Yeah,
it wasn't the wrong decision to play them. I'm not saying that at all.
yeah. No, I get that, mate, and that's why probably in most cases dual reg works. But
Yeah.
for these 1 or 2 games here and there, and that I've spoken to many a lad, and they've gone. You can sense the atmosphere when a lad's come in for 2 weeks and took a lad's spot. So straight away, then
Yeah,
you've lost
mate.
that regular, haven't you? And
Well, I think like moments in games, like whether you win or you lose, they're not. Them moments aren't in that game. They're in the pre-season where you've
yeah,
worked hard together. You know, you've been in a fat club because you've had to go in half an hour early because you've come back 3 kilograms overweight and you've had to bust your balls on the roller and treadmill to get back in shape, or you've gone through the tough stuff and you've pulled each other through. Those sometimes those sort of historic moments that they make the difference in them calls on them games, or that extra little bit of effort, or the 1% that you've done or you've not done. Sometimes,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So yeah,
At every level, that in it, every
yeah,
level.
yeah, mate,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
100%.
So signing for Leigh, mate, how and why did that come about? And was that a move
So
you were happy with?
so uh, Widnes were going through some trouble at the time, and they basically turned around and said, "Luke, there's nothing here for you. We're not going to offer you anything." When I was at Rochdale, the assistant coach at Rochdale was a guy called Darren Shaw, an Aussie guy. Daz played for Sheffield Eagles in the Challenge Cup final against Wigan. Challenge Cup winner, real good guy, real tough guy. Always kept in touch with Darren, like real nice bloke, crazy cat. Had a drink in him like he was nuts, mate. You know, like good nuts kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
but really respected him in everything that he did and the way he went about stuff, and you know, and it sort of like the Widnes thing was going upside down a little bit financially, you know, for the club. And he rang me and just to see how I was, like, mate, what's you know, how are you? What's happening? You all right? You good? You sort of like, do you need anything or anything like that? And I was like, mate, I don't know yet. I said, obviously, wait to see what the club tell me. And he said, well, would you be open to moving if the club don't keep you? And I said, well, my priority is to stay, if I'm honest with you, mate. But if the club tell me no, then I want to continue playing. Of course I do. So I'd be open to anything, you know. Because I think it kind of dragged on a little bit. So you didn't
yeah,
get told straight away. So you didn't have weeks and weeks and weeks before the pre-season started to sort it out. And he said, I've got something coming up. I'll be in touch in a couple of weeks. Stay in touch with me, mate. Let me know how you're going on and stuff like that. And I was like, brilliant, yeah, no worries. And he got appointed the league coach
right.
a couple of weeks later, and he rang me and he was like, what's happening at Widnes, mate? I was like, they told me it's a no-go, mate. So what have you got for me? Or do you know anyone?
Yeah,
Kind of thing. And he was like, mate, I want you to come to Leigh. He said, who's Widnes kind of shut the door on? So there was myself, there was Dennis Moran, there was Toa, there was a couple of us, there was a few of us, and he was like, mate, tell those boys as well that we want them, kind of thing. So it was like a collective decision to move over to Leigh.
yeah. That's a smoother transition for you as well, mate. And it straight away, you've got like
Yeah.
a
Well, I
couple
played
of
on the
good
edge with
blokes.
T. T was my centre when I played at Widnes, like,
Yeah,
so great guy. You know, Dennis was maverick at times.
yeah,
You know, brilliant to play with. Sometimes a nightmare to play with, but he could turn a game, mate, if he wanted to. He was unbelievable.
yeah,
Uh, very, very talented. Tough as they come as well. You know, naughty as they come as well. But that made him everything that he was. You know, kind of
yeah.
thing. So yeah, it was quite an easier transition, like you say. We're having a couple of familiar faces there. They assembled a good squad at League, to be fair, that year. Real good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Enjoy your time there, mate. Yeah,
yeah, mate. Yeah, really
yeah,
did. Really, really did. Again, it was like back to sort of like it was a big club steeped in history. You know, things like that. I always admired League because they've always had a good team. You know, whenever you played League, it was always competitive and they always had a good crowd. And the crowd was similar to a Widnes crowd, like they back you to
yeah,
the hill if you worked hard. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? With sort of like rugby league fans is if you're giving everything, the fans are happy. It's when
Yeah.
if you're losing or winning, obviously it's important, but if you're giving everything on that field and they can see you running your blood to water, you're appreciated.
They'll love you. Yeah.
Yeah, like Leigh's like that, mate. So we had a great time. It was last season at Hilton Park as well, so it was a very special time.
Right.
Very emotional time as well. We had a great squad there. Some real old pro, some ex-Widnes lads like Andy Hobson, prop.
Yeah.
Was there. Nathan McAvoy was the other centre. Mike Wainwright, who was at Warrington from Warrington. Tall second row. Like some real good lads. Real experienced, and we all gelled really well, and we had a good season, mate.
Yeah. How long was you at Leigh for?
So only 1 year, then Widnes came back.
Yeah. You're going to say you come back, didn't you?
Yeah, Widnes contacted again and said, like, we've got new finances.
Is it tricky to go back when what's happened?
No, because I sort of like left Widnes on good terms. I understood what they was going through, and like I said to you, mate, it was never about money. If Widnes said to me, Luke, we can't pay you at all, and I stayed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I loved everything about playing for that club. But they never said that. They were just like, there's nothing here for you. We're not going to pursue another year with you or any longer. You need to go and find somewhere else, basically. And I respected that. It was as honest as it could be. They told me as soon as they could, because they didn't know what was going on, and stuff like that. And
I suppose it does make it different, that, doesn't it, if you're both being transparent.
Yeah, and then obviously going back, it was a different team, it was a different kind of club then. So it was like almost walking into a new club. Even though some of the fundamentals were there, like Janet was still in the office and Big Lad was still there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it had a slightly different feel about it. Yeah.
Right.
It was mate, again, where Widnes come knocking, you sort of don't hesitate.
And did he start leaning on you for leadership or out like that? Did you have that in you?
Yeah, well, there was always leaders in the team. Like Smithy, Mark Smith was unbelievable as a captain, and he used to say to me, and he said to the other boys as well, he said, we're all captains in here. He said, I'm just the one that goes out and does the toss. That's the only difference.
I'll talk to the ref. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's sort of the ethos it was. So I think as you naturally get older, you take a little bit of that mantle up, and the younger lads, and you lean on the younger lads and help them and mentor or whatever that may be. It's like a natural progression, I think.
Yeah, and good to be back, mate. Enjoy it when you were back there.
Loved it again, mate. Loved it again. It felt like home. Very great. It was great. New set of lads. So really clicked with like Jim Gannon and stuff like that. Few older heads. We bumped heads a few times against each other, so it was nice to play with him. He was a tough nut, and so we had a good time, mate. We had a good setup, and we gave it a dig, didn't we?
Yeah.
A few things changed. Steve Mack left, didn't they? Stanky took over for a little bit. Then Cool came in.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this for me, this guy was special. I've had some phenomenal coaches. Just the way he handled himself and his integrity was just a different level, that man.
So you've been a couple of places, mate. Sorry, where a coach has left in season. How is that? What happens to the atmosphere, mate, when that's happening?
Sometimes it's like there's been a divorce in the family. Do you know, like mum and dad's divorce kind of thing? It's like, what happens? What happens to me now? Where do we go? Like, because that coach has signed you, hasn't it? Because he's seen something in you. Another coach can come in and have a different agenda.
Yeah, the world has opinions in it.
Yeah, 100%. Mate, I'll bring his own players in your position, so it's always like what if or unknown. But yeah, Mike Ford left towards the end of the season. Bobby, I can't remember when Bobby left. I think Bobby left towards the end, but still with a few games left.
Do you usually see it coming, Lee? Sorry, do you see it coming, or has there ever been any that have completely shocked you?
We fought it. No, we didn't. We didn't see it coming. We played Leigh at Leigh, and then after the game, he was like, "I know you're going to be a good team. You're going to go on and do this and that." And there was a few things, but sort of like only after it, you're driving home and digesting it. You're like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? You're going to be a good team? Why are we not going to be a good team?" Like, and then he was like,
Yeah.
it came out like the day after he spoke to us all at training and was like, I'm leaving. I'm going to rugby union, and that sort of thing. So yeah, mate. Sometimes you can pick up things,
Yeah.
but it's the nature of the game, isn't it, mate? Players move on and
Yes, for
coaches move
sure.
on, and I think that builds a bit of a resilience in you because you give everything with your teammates for that year,
Yeah.
for that season. But who knows if you're going to be teammates again? But so you go to war with them every week, or you die for your teammates. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
you'd certainly die with them. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they're playing for another team the year after. But you're
And you're
still
gonna go and
friends, but
rip their
then
head
you're
off.
enemies as well. And that kind of thing. So it does
Yeah.
build a bit of resilience in you that sport, isn't it? It moves on very
Yeah.
quickly.
And did you realise in your playing career, like mid or later, that it's as much a business as it is the love?
Yeah,
Because you know, like you come across really realistic.
yeah. I,
So
I, I
like,
knew I gathered on pretty quickly, mate, that players are a pawn in a massive game. And obviously with the move from Oldham to Huddersfield, uh, there
really
was another one.
expose you that one, it.
Yeah, and then there was another one where Warrington came in a slightly later as well, and you just get used as a bit of a bargaining tool or whatever. And there's certain agendas. People have their own agendas,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I was quite naive back then to the game. I've not been in it that long, like I said, and stuff like that. So, yeah,
Probably to your blessing.
yeah. And as you get older, you understand it a bit more, and you don't,
Yeah.
you don't hate the game, you hate the players sometimes.
Yeah. I bet you do, mate. I bet you do. So when you go to Whitehaven, mate, is it amicable, even witnessing that part of your life's done now, or
That was a little bit of a bitter ending, if I'm honest with you. So I'd
okay?
done that at Widnes that year. I'd won Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So I'd had a bit. I'd had a bit of a run in with an individual who used to play at the club when he played. I played for Rochdale, and we'd had a bit of a run in the games, and
Yeah.
him and his mate were propping against, and he was trying to give it, and I give it back, and stuff like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
we didn't really like each other from that, and he didn't like me, which I knew, and that was fine. And then he got involved in the club a little bit behind the
Yeah.
scenes, and then probably about 4 weeks before the end of the season, somebody at the club, uh, Paul had not long. I think Paul had left then. Paul had left, and I think Stu Wilkinson took over like interim coach for a few weeks towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And someone at the club pulled me to one side and said, "Listen, you've done phenomenal this year, but you're not going to be here next year. He doesn't like you. He's got it in for you, but he's not
That's
going to tell you.
madness, that though, isn't it?
He's not going to tell you. You just, you know." I was like, right. It was like, I'm telling you because you need to prepare yourself. And
Yeah.
what's after this club like kind of thing. So I was like, right, okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, I wasn't. We'd had a bit of a run in, and when
It weren't Stu that didn't like you, was it? It was the individual, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
Stu that pulled me to one side. It was somebody else, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with me, integrity is massive. Integrity is huge. If you've not got integrity, then you've not got anything. You're only as good as your word. And like I'm
Yeah.
quite old school with that. If you give me a word, then you don't have to sign a
Yeah.
contract. You don't have to do this.
I
Or
was
you don't
going to
have to
say
do
a handshake's as good as
yeah,
anything else, isn't it?
exactly, mate.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your word as a man and all that.
Yeah.
This this guy doesn't have much integrity. I don't believe anyway. Well, certainly not towards me,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And somebody put, like I said, someone put me to one side and was like, "Just this is what's happening. We think behind the scenes. Like, just be mindful." And I was like, "Right, thank you." And I was gutted, to be fair, mate. I was absolutely gutted when that because I'd had a good season, and then and so we'd had a little bit of a run in, and then end of season presentation was coming up, and I was like, "Okay, I'm not going." You know, I'm not
no one
going
could blame you either, could they?
and I got a phone. Big lad rang me, and he was like, "Mate, I've heard you might not be coming to the presentation." He said, "You need to be at the presentation." I was like, "Mate, I'm not. You know, I'm not putting myself in that situation. You know, because." And all of that kind of caper, and I was like, "Nah." And he was like, "Mate, listen to me. You need to be at the presentation. Promise me you'll be there." I was like, "Oh." To and fro in a bit, and I was like, "Right, okay, I'll go. Right, I'll turn up." Right. He went, you need to be there, promise me." And I was like, "Okay." And that year, that's when I won, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, like Mick, I think Mick Cass did the awards. He got up and spoke a little bit. I always remember that Cass is a great guy, unbelievable guy. Like, you know, and I remember saying, like, this guy, if I'm coach, he's one of the first names on my team sheet, blah blah blah. And I won the award. I was like, wow, okay. But it sort of meant nothing. It was a bit of a hollow victory, if that makes sense. But it's sport, mate.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I get over it. You know, I'll never forgive that person for what they did. And it's not only me that they did it to. They did it to a few other people. Bob Bezic, they did it to Bob and stuff like that as well. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. So hence Whitehaven.
Yeah. So I got offered. Well, I got offered. Barrow came in for me to go to Barrow. So I went up to have a chat with Barrow, and he was like, "We've got a game on Sunday against Wigan. We want you to play in that." I forgot the chairman at the time. Was it Des? I can't remember the time, but they had a great team, Barrow, at that time. You know, on some really big money, really really big money. So I went up to Barrow on that Sunday and I played. Again, did okay. You know, did what well. He was like, "Nate, I want to sign you." He said, "But the problem is, with no money to go through the books we've spent up, I can only pay you cash."
Yeah.
I'll pay you cash, but this guy was renowned for paying cash at Barrow, big cash as well.
Yeah.
But I was also told that if things weren't going right, he wouldn't pay you. You know, and I just thought, I just got with my missus at the time, and she was pregnant, and I was like, I appreciate it, but I need that bit of security. I need contract, basically. Money, you know, I can't just come up here expecting to get a burn envelope or something like that. And it's
Lucky one at that as well.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't mind it one, but if you're not playing well or we're not winning, then you're not getting your pay. Who do I go to for getting me money, you know? So, David Seeds gave me a phone call. He was a coach at the time. Seeds, I've known Seeds for years, played against him, always admired him. You know, real good bloke, full of integrity and honesty and transparency and stuff like that. I enjoyed going up to Whitehaven. I'd always enjoyed going up to Cumbria and playing, and it was like a bit of a thing. It was my first real professional taste when I played for Oldham. Went up to Whitehaven for that first ever trial game.
Exactly, yeah. It's like a full circle.
Yeah, kind of thing. And I was like, I'm out of my comfort zone. I've got to travel 2.5 hours, 3 nights a week. You know, I've got to travel home. Let's go for it. Let's roll the dice. Why not? Let's go out my comfort zone for a bit. I could have got another club in Lancashire. Oldham came back in for me at the time as well, but I was like, no, let's get out of our comfort zone. You've always been at your comfort zone anyway. Let's go for it again. Let's roll that dice and see what comes of it.
How was it?
Amazing. Again, mate, real good, like community spirit, honesty and integrity. They loved anyone that worked hard from, you know, and I prided myself on working hard in games and doing all the shit stuff. Like I said, I was never the most talented, but I do 40 tackles a game and 20, 30 carries in, you know, and all that.
You've done stuff probably the average fan didn't really see as well, Leigh, didn't you?
Yeah, but your mates appreciated it.
Headlines. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
And that's me, and that was my role, mate. And I was quite comfortable in that, you know, and saying that. So I loved it, mate. You know, it was times unconventional going up there. Like I took I ended up going up there as assistant coach as well. I got an assistant coach gig up there with a coach that came in from Australia, mate. He didn't have a scooby, if I'm honest with you.
Right.
Like
that was the accent.
That was just his methods was just way off, mate. It felt like he'd come for an holiday.
Right. It's just milking it, really.
And it was hard, mate. It was really hard, that. But it was good and rewarding in other ways. Like, and a couple of young lads came up with me. So a young lad called Dave Orton, who was at Widnes. He came up to Whitehaven, travelled up in the back of a painter and decorator's van a couple of times, sat on a couple of paintings, and that's not comfortable, I can tell you that. The three of us, so one of us would travel up in the front with him, in the back,
Swapsies.
then swap up way back. So I always got in the comfy seats on the way back. Like,
but how real's that though?
Mate, it's all part of it, and we loved it. We had a crack, mate. We had a great crack. Honestly, we ended up getting a bit of a Lancashire bus going up and stuff like that. And it's another training session, that, travelling up and back. It's like another team bonding thing, and we had a great time at Whitehaven. I'm very, very honoured to have been able to represent them and sort of like put their shirt on, and I'm forever grateful for what they offered and gave me.
Yeah. So do you know that exposure into coaching, did that open your mind to it, or was you already interested in it anyway?
Yeah, no, I've always been interested in the coaching side. I love that sort of like mental side of things, and breaking a game down, analysis and stuff like that. I wanted to sort of like, I thought, coming towards the back end of my career, I'm going to strength and conditioning and do that role. It's kind of dead man's shoes, that someone's got to have left a job for you to get one, kind of thing, and it's quite hard. And like it or not, mate, rugby league's quite cliquey.
We're getting a bit older, so you see it, don't you? It's like you said before, really.
Yeah, and you're not necessarily the best person in the job. It's just the right people.
For the boys.
And stuff like that. So, I enjoyed the coaching. It was hard, and you do. I had a newfound sort of like appreciation for coaches, because they put so much hours in. So many hours, mate. It's unbelievable, like doing the analysis, the game prep, and all of that. But I loved it as well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So when did coaching Chev come about then, mate?
So what happened was, my lad, a couple of his friends at school, he was Charlie, 6, 7 years, 4, 5, 6 years old, I think, whatever. Yeah. His couple of his mates were going down to Shevington Sharks, local club near me, and he wanted to go down and play. I wanted him to go to Orrell St James's, but I couldn't take him this one night, so my missus took him. So she took him to Chevy, and I was like, why have you took him to Chevy? She was, my mates were going there, and her mates, so she could stand and chat with someone and stuff like that. And that's how we ended up going at Chevy. And then they was playing Leigh East one day at Leigh East. So we went, and I was like to her, listen, she was like, do you not fancy getting involved and helping? I was like, no, I just want to be a dad. I just want to sit there. And so I said to her, like, I'm murdered for a coffee. I love a coffee. So I said to her, do you want a brew? Do you want a coffee? She went, yeah. So I come back with 2 coffees, and she went, Phil, the coach, has asked, would you mind warming the kids up with him? Because at that time,
a tackle shield.
They had enough for 2 teams. They had 2 teams. So I was like, looked at her, and she just smiled. And I was like, okay. And it stemmed from that, mate. He was like, can you take that team on there, and I'll take these? And then it was like, do you want to do these awards after the game? And and all that. And then it evolves like that, mate, doesn't it?
The missus not show you that sign saying, just ask him. And like an adult like
mate, I'm sure she took a bung just to get me out of the house, I'll tell you.
Right, mate, I've got a few daft questions for you, if that's all right.
Of course, mate, no problem at all.
BMAC superstitions, did you have any?
Not really. I did when I was younger. Put your left boot on and all that sort of caper. And then as I got a bit older, I remember, I think we were playing in the World Cup, I think it was, doing something in that. I was only young. I think it was Mick Cass who said to me, he said, what are you doing that for? I was like, because I need to do that. He went, no, you don't. He's like, what you do in training means you prep for a game, not because you put your left boot on. He said, you don't need superstitions, mate. I think you're right. That light bulb moment kind of thing. I used to wear like a bit of a forearm pad thing, and I had a piece of cloth, what I'd had since I first started playing. I used to bang my arm tackling, so I always had it, and I had that piece of cloth. It started off as a piece of foam, and when I finished playing,
Mark Hilton and Fozzard effort.
Just a piece of cloth, mate. Only a little thing, but I had that all the way through my playing days. So that's probably the only thing.
Yeah. So the next word, mate, is different for everybody, meaning wise. But the toughest player you played with and against.
Okay, so toughest. It comes in many forms. Done it for me. You know, you've got
Yeah.
you guys who are big and rough and tough, and you wouldn't like to fight them, and you know what I mean. And then you've got like Rob Burrow, that was tough. Every week he was tough, mate. But for me to play against, not necessarily tough, but for me it is tough. Like he just had so much time on the ball. He dictated play even when he wasn't involved. He played real tough as well when he needed to, but he was so like he had a bit of guile about him. And great players seem to slow the game down around them.
Yeah.
So like he'd get the ball in his hand, and it was Jim Dimmock. He played for Australia.
Yeah. And
He'd
London
get
Broncos won it.
unbelievable, mate. Like he got the
Yeah.
ball. I remember going up and sliding, and no matter how fast I was running, I wasn't getting any closer to him. And he was like towards the back end of his career then, but he just had so much time on the ball. And I remember just thinking, wow, like in awe of him, like he was special. And like in his pomp when he was playing for like Origin and Kangaroos and that, mate, just unbelievable. So yeah,
Yeah. A bit of
he's probably the
exposure
one.
to levels.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you've got like Brett McDermott, who was at Barrow. He finished playing. He went into like cage fighting, so that's a tough guy, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like
Yeah.
that. But for me, Jim Dimmock was yeah special.
Yeah. Well, you'd have played with Lee Gaskell, wouldn't you?
No,
Did you not? I think he went into something like that. And he was like a winger,
no, I don't. I don't think I
wasn't he?
played
Like
with
a
him.
little niggly winger, but I'm sure he went into something like
Dean
that.
Gaskell. Dean, sorry.
Oh. Uh, Dean,
Dean
sorry.
Gaskell, the
Yeah.
winger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dean Gaskell. He went into. He's into
Yeah.
bodybuilding now.
Sorry, Dean. Lee's the half back, in it.
Yeah, he is,
Yeah.
mate.
No,
Yeah,
so he went into something like that, didn't he,
yeah, he did.
Dean? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did a bit of
It's
that.
it's isn't it, man? But they probably loved them sessions that probably wingers weren't really meant to love the wrestles and
Yeah,
like dominating the ruck, isn't it? Because that's probably crept into the game as you were
yeah, mate.
back at
Yeah.
Widnes, didn't it?
No, no.
So your favourite away ground, Lee? What type and was it the older grounds you prefer, or do you like the new ones?
Uh, they all different sort of stuff, but I'd probably say the one that I really enjoyed playing was a couple. So I loved Headingley. Headingley's a special
So
ground.
popular, Headingley, mate.
Like the grass, the pitch was unbelievable, but there's an atmosphere because there's still a stand there and the fans are on top of you. Same as Castleford. Castleford's a
Yeah,
great, traditional one like that. Championship wise, I used to enjoy playing at Batley.
yeah.
You know, just a quirky ground. You know what I mean? A bit unconventional. Fans are on top of you. Always seemed to be nice weather when I played there. So I enjoyed those as well, mate.
What a bragger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could tell yourself anything back in the day, mate, what would it be?
So, funnily enough, I got asked this question the other week, doing a bit of a Q&A thing, and the question was a little bit different. The question was like, what's more important, the destination or the journey? And I had to think about it a little bit, and my answer was neither. It's the
Yeah,
company that you have along the way. Uh,
I like that.
so for to still stay friends with people that you've been
Yeah,
through everything with, like, and you've got an ultimate bond. Like I said, catch up with some of the guys now, and still on WhatsApp groups, and it's like we're still playing with a banter that goes around, and you might not seen someone for 2 years. Like Chris Giles, who used to play at Widnes, he lives in Australia now, so he comes home every couple of years. The minute he's home, like all the boys get together and see him and stay in touch, and it's just an amazing experience. So for me, just enjoy the journey. The
yeah.
destinations, you never reach the destination. You never do.
Because you'll always want more, won't you? It's funny that
What's
actually.
next? It's
Yeah,
always what's next.
yeah.
So
No,
enjoy
I
that
like
journey.
that. Yeah. And more importantly, the company that's with you on it. Yeah. Right, mate. If you've had a few with the boys, then the microphone ends up in your hand. What are you
Yeah.
giving us?
I'd probably say the
Yeah.
piano man, or Kenny Rogers, the gambler.
Right. I need someone that'll get people involved. Have a bit of a
Yeah,
shuffle.
listen, mate. I
Yeah.
can't sing. I'm a bit shy like that sort of stuff. But when I'm in the car on my own, sometimes I've been known to hit them top notes. You know what I mean?
You think you're on your own to all the motorway, just looking like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. All the kids are embarrassed. All the dogs looking at me
Yeah,
like, "Oh, what's going on
that's
about?"
when you
But
know you're doing a good job when the kids are
I like a bit
embarrassed,
of
mate.
Billy
Innit?
Joel, mate, and yeah,
Yeah,
bit of Johnny Cash as well in there. So we're all right.
yeah. If you're willing to, mate, a 1 to 13 that you've
Yeah,
played
of
with.
course, mate. Yeah, so fullback for me. Uh, He's not known as a fullback, but he has played fullback, which would be Pat Richards.
Yeah,
Pat was just a great guy. I roomed with Pat when he played in the World Cup in Australia. Well, I say room with him, but he went home, lived at home. So I just had an hotel room to myself. I think when his kids did his head in or whatever, his missus, he'd come and
yeah.
bunk back down in the
You
room. But
lost.
mate, great guy, like probably has one of the most special moments in the grand final when he did the little flick pass. And Benji Marshall
Yeah,
did the flick pass and he gets it, and
yeah,
just real humbleness about him. And but what a quality guy and a quality player he was, like, so really good. Winger, I've got some honourable mentions as well, like, mate, but Craig Calvert, Whitehaven flyer, mate, when you talk about having a winger, he was just a pure finisher and rapid as well. Skin and bone, really, but he'd square up to anybody. But, mate, if he got the ball and in a bit clear, mate, he's away and he's gone.
yeah,
So, and a great guy as well. Still stay in touch with Calvert now, mate, and he's trying really hard at the moment to get a bit of resurgence into Whitehaven and get people on board again, and it's nice to see. The other winger, played with him when I was at Oldham. Again, a try scoring machine, a real good guy. Joey Hayes used to play winger for St Helens, won the grand final with Saints, Challenge Cups and stuff. What a guy he was like. He's now a physio, Joey. See Joey now and again and speak to him. But again, mate, just a pure class finisher, and probably a lot of modern day wingers are based on him. What he could do, he'd get you on the front foot with a quick play of the ball, coming against the big guys, but he just knew where the trial arm was, Joey. Centres, Toa Coe Love, just pure class, mate. Just learnt so much from him, and again, he was probably towards the back end of his career a little bit, you'd say, but mate, could still step around anybody and just pure class. The other centre, real honourable mention to Mick Nanny, goal kicking machine. But Scott McAvoy's just edged it, former Whitehaven lad. Luke, nothing like a rugby league player, had a body like a postman, but mate, just had something
he was a
about
player
him.
though, wasn't he?
Mate, just he was a bit chubby in his earlier days. We do remind him of that now and again, like, but he could play multiple positions as well. So he was a real good, could hit a tremendous line as well, and just a nice guy. Again, just did it happy playing with his mates and giving it a crack. And probably if he weren't at Whitehaven, he could have made it somewhere else, but he was loyal to the club. I've gone for 6. Dennis Moran.
Yeah.
Absolute maverick. Noticed man alive, but also silky and classy, and just, like I said, get an interception or two, country as well, you know what I mean? Sometimes you look, he was like on your arse on the try line, defending, and then he'd fly out and get an interception and go and score a try for length of the field. And he was like, thank God for that. Like, one of them guys, he has to be in your team. Again, at 7, real tough decision this, because I played with some fantastic 7s. So Bobby Goulding was one, phenomenal. Ian Watson, phenomenal. But I've gone for Mike Ford. Just, he was before his time, mate. So he was player coach at Oldham at the time, and he was implementing things in training what clubs are doing now. He's just before his time. He just didn't have the resources at Oldham to do that. What he wanted to do, if Oldham had the resources, then it'd have been a major force, I believe, with him coaching name. But he went on to have an illustrious career in Union, didn't he? And he's guided George to where he's at and the levels he's at. But he was a great kicking game. Tough as well, mate. Real tough guy. Held you accountable. If he was going to the line and you weren't there with him, then you knew about it, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It was a good guy. These are players that I've loved playing with as well, not just necessarily honourable mention to Paul Jackson, who used to be a player at Huddersfield. Real tough lad. Jacko, just dead unassuming, worked really hard. But I've gone for Leo Casey. Leo Casey, just a real old school, tough prop forward. Like I said, when he was at, I think he signed for Fed, but he was the highest, most expensive forward in the world when he signed at Fed. Like I learnt so much from Leo. Never really spoke much. Very quiet man, quite dry-witted and stuff like that. But what a player he was, mate. I'd have hated to play against him when he was in his pomp because he was
I
tough.
was going to say that's when scrums were scrums as well, is it?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
So real tough guy. Again, at 9, real tough one. So Mickey McAlorum, unbelievable kid, tough as they come as well. Dave McConnell, lad that played at Saints, and he had quite a good career at Leigh. Phil Cantillon, again, could score a try too. But my choice at 9 is Mark Smith.
We've been quite lucky with hookers at Widnes, haven't we? You know, when you think about it, with Bob as well and
unbelievable,
Shane
mate.
Miller.
Smithy just had a way to speak to you. And like I said, I see him now on a weekly basis, and you know he's been through a bit of a tough spell at the minute, Smithy. But his mum passed away and his brother passed away within a short space of each other. But he's always got time for you. Very humble guy. Knowledge is through the roof on rugby league or any sport really, if you know. But he could play, mate. And we had a bit of a telepathy, me and him, I think, because when I'd offload, he's always there for it, and he'd go on his little darts. We didn't have to,
isn't it?
Yeah, we didn't have to speak. I didn't have to tell him that we were coming. He just knew, and he'd challenge you in ways, Smithy. He'd challenge you by coming over and having a word with you in training, and he'd say something to you, and he'd walk off, and he knew how to plant a seed. And again, just leadership-wise, mate, I learned loads off him. Real good guy, real tough guy as well, mate. Not the biggest. Came through the system at Wigan when Wigan were the top team, and if you can push your way into that team, then you've got something about you.
You're doing all right, aren't you?
You have, mate. Next prop, Barry Mack.
Yeah.
Just how could you not love playing with a guy like that? You know, just big, raw-boned, aggressive guy that punched holes in people and unbelievable footwork for a guy that size as well, mate. You know what I mean? And you see it now, the articulate side of him. He's always had that in him. You know.
You know what? I didn't know what to expect when he come on. To be quite honest with you, they had him on, mate. So articulate, that polite.
Very humble,
time.
integrity-wise. You know.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because we've grew up watching him and that. And you sort of think, oh, he could be awkward here, like, because he's been and done it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But he was the complete opposite. He was an absolute gem.
Man's man, mate. Real good guy. Yeah. I saw him. God, you lose track of time, don't you? But I was in the queue he was in the queue at Starbucks, and I'd gone in Wigan, and he turned around and mate, it was a Friday treat. I was only getting a flat white, small one, about £2. But anyway, he went out of his way to come over, and we had a good 15-20 minute chat, and he was going off on his way, and I was going mine. But like he's very sincere when he spoke to you. You know, great to see you, tuna, like, man, blah blah blah, stay in touch, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. And an idol when I was growing up as well, mate. You know, someone that I'm very lucky to have been able to play with. Back rower, again, just sort of like similar to myself, I think, in terms of he wasn't like the most spectacular player, but he worked and he grafted and he worked his balls off, which was Mick Cassidy.
Yeah.
Probably got one of the most famous incidents in rugby league where he took Adrian Morley out with his elbow, you know, and stuff like that. And but a great guy, Cass. See him quite a lot. You know, he'll never drive past without beeping to you or something like that. You know, real good guy, and pleasure to play with, to be fair, and learnt a lot off him, mate. Like I said, next second rower, again, I just love playing with this guy because he was honest, he was integral, no nonsense, but skillful. Was Howard Hill, big back rower. He played prop towards the back end of his time at Whitehaven, but he played for Oldham Bears, Super League, and then up at Whitehaven. Just a great guy again. You know, really. His son's now at Wigan, Harvey Hill. I remember Harvey being a kid, like, you know, Whitehaven when I was up there and stuff, being a mascot, and just great to see him sort of like, he's probably, Harvey's got everything his dad had, but a little bit extra as well, mate. Like,
He's
Howard
on
was
the
a good,
cusp, Harvey, isn't he?
yeah,
He's on the
yeah,
cusp, yeah.
quality kid. And like I said, Howard, he's come from the right roots with Howard and stuff like that. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Howard, a real good guy. Loose forward, pretty untouchable when he played, mate. When he played with me at Oldham, and he went on to win Challenge Cups at Hull, which is Shane McMenemy. Went to Halifax. You know,
Yeah, he was
great,
classy, man. Yeah, he was here at
real
Oldham,
class. He was at Oldham. He came over from
was
Australia
he?
to Oldham, and he made his name at Oldham. Then went to Halifax. From Halifax, he signed for Hull
Holland,
and
didn't he?
won the Challenge Cup with Hull.
Yeah, I thought he
Real,
was class at Halifax. That's where my core memory is. He was like
yeah,
one of the best players, wasn't he?
he was, mate. He was a great guy as
Yeah,
well. Like he had a big arse on him, and he used it like, you know, big arse and big legs, and he could bump people and
yeah.
stuff like that. We went on a training camp once when I was at Oldham. We went to Plymouth to train with the Marines. He'd not long since been off the plane from Australia. He ended up getting hypothermia. They had to take him off. Like, he sat there in like a truck, mate, with
Just
some
come off the beach.
tinfoil wrap round with him drinking hot chocolate, eating Mars bars. He played on that for the last 4 days as well, mate. He never trained for the last 4 days. God, when he could turn it on in a game, mate, he turned it on.
Yeah.
So yeah, another good guy.